of all. George Bush doesn't care about black people. Please call.
In the past few days, America and people has been...
Here's the infamous moment where Kanye made comments during the Hurricane Katrina devastation. I want to revisit the comments he made in totality and look at it against an interview he did with Matt Lauer about this moment. I'll be chiming in with my thoughts and comments. Let's get into it, starting with what Kanye said during this Hurricane Katrina relief program.
With the breach of 3 levees protecting New Orleans, the landscape of the city has changed dramatically, tragically, and perhaps irreversibly. There's now over 25 feet of water where there was once city streets and thriving neighborhoods.
I hate the way they portray us in the media. If you see a black family, it says they're looting. If you see a white family, it says they're looking for food. And you know it's been 5 days because most of the people are black. And even for me to complain about, I would be a hypocrite because I've tried to turn away from the TV because it's too hard to watch. I've even been shopping before even giving a donation. So now I'm calling my business manager right now to see what is the biggest amount I can give, and just to imagine if I was down there, and those are my people down there. So anybody out there that wants to do anything that we can help with the setup, the way America is set up to help the poor, the black people, the less well off as slow as possible. I mean, Red Cross is doing everything they can. We already realize a lot of the people that could help are at war right now, fighting another way, and they've given them permission to go down and shoot us.
And subtle, but in even many ways more profoundly devastating, is the lasting damage to the survivors' will to rebuild and remain in the area. The destruction of the spirit of the people of southern Louisiana and Mississippi may end up being the most tragic loss of all.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
Please call.
In the past few days...
That was Kanye's comments in 2005. I want to visit an interview that he did with Matt Lauer on Today in 2010, 5 years later, about this incident.
Kanye West, he is not a stranger to controversy, and he's back in the headlines this week for his comments about former President George W. Bush. We're going to hear from him in a moment, but first, as we've mentioned, President Bush opens up in his new memoir about that famous moment when West said George Bush doesn't care about black people. It's something I asked President Bush about when we sat down recently in Texas.
I didn't appreciate it then, and I don't appreciate it now. It's one thing to say, I don't appreciate the way he's handled his business. It's another thing to say this man's a racist. I resent it. It's not true. And it was one of the most disgusting moments of my presidency.
Here's a 2-term president who ran the country during Katrina, 9/11, wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the financial meltdown. And he's pointing the finger at Kanye West and that incident as the worst moment in his presidency. I asked Kanye West to respond to President Bush's remarks.
As far as it being the worst moment of his presidency, I can't really speak to that, but as his take, his explanation, I completely agree with, and I empathize with totally. And I felt like that the entire time, that, I was being, hailed as a hero, and everyone saying, yo, I'm so happy you said that, and I didn't like you before, but now I like you because you said this. And you just sit there and in your heart as a person that in a moment of emotion, to peg someone or to call a name or peg someone as a racist is not, it's just not right.
Yeah, there was great frustration with the response to Hurricane Katrina. And there we were standing there. It was just a few days, less than a week afterward. But while most people expressed frustration, you did take it across the line. And you said you made it a little more sinister, that the federal response to Katrina was because of race. And so do you regret having said that now?
I don't want to speak on the word regret. And I think a lot of things that happen in America, period, are because of race, just the way this country was built and the struggles we've had to get into, positions, through media, through social positions, through gentrification, through like so many. It's a way bigger conversation than that. But what I wanted to speak to with Bush was just to say that I empathize with the idea of being pegged as a racist.
Just play the tape. Don't even listen this time. I want you to just look at his face when he is commenting about you. And just look at him. I mean, this is the most emotional he got during my entire 3.5-hour interview with him. What would you say to him if he would meet with you face to face? And I'm not sure he would, but if he would.
You know, I mean, I didn't need you guys to show me the tape in order to like prompt my emotion to what I'm going to say. You know?
No, I'm just asking you, when you look at his face, what would you say to him?
I mean, pre-looking at his face, I came up here because I wanted to say something to him right after the fact. You know, I would say, you know what I'm saying? It's like I don't even have to do the TV stuff with me. This is reality. This is the real thing going on. This is, you know what I'm saying? I don't need all the jazz. I would say to, can we be quiet for a second? I would tell George Bush, in my moment of frustration, that I didn't have the grounds to call him a racist.
And you're sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry for...
I think I get the point.
I want to give it the...
Let's pause here. There's a few things that I want to discuss. And even though this is from 2010 and Kanye's comments were from 2005, I think the overall concept is extremely relevant today regarding media and narratives. In Kanye's original comments in 2005, he said he didn't like the way black families were being presented in the media versus white families being presented in the media as it relates to Hurricane Katrina. Now, I was young at the time, and I don't necessarily remember if there were a lot of conversations about media and conversations about ethically covering situations, about bias in media. And Kanye was essentially bringing these items up, and I think they're very important items. Fast forward to this 2010 interview, and to me it's clear that Matt Lauer and or The Today Show have a narrative in this interview. As Kanye rightfully pointed out, there was the attempt to prompt his emotion by running that George Bush clip. They want to get Kanye to apologize for those comments in 2005. And they want to push a story that, as we can read on the screen here, this moment was the lowest point of George Bush's presidency. Let's just stop and think about how ridiculous that notion is. That something Kanye said was the lowest point of George Bush's presidency. It wasn't the fact that this devastating hurricane happened. It wasn't September 11th attacks. It was a few words from Kanye West. What kind of narrative is this? Irresponsible, unethical, poor journalism here. Let's continue.
The exact perfect wording, because everything that I say gets taken and drawn into headlines, and I'm here to man up to different mistakes that I made and speak to the moment when I pegged George Bush as a racist. I came here to say that I made mistakes, that I've grown as a person, and that it's not as easy as boxing someone into a villain role or into a race role. I did not have the information, enough information in that situation to call him a racist. That might have been the emotion that I felt. But me being a rational, well thought out, empathetic human being and thinking about it after the fact, I would have chosen different words. Even in these times where I was considered to have done something so wrong, my motivation was from a good place. Maybe mistimed, maybe not the right wording, not using or realizing the power of my words and the way they would stop the internet. But nonetheless, that it's very pure and from a good place.
So it sounds to me, and not to oversimplify it, what you're saying is we're human, we make mistakes, but we have to learn from our mistakes.
Yeah.
I think Kanye spoke very well there, and again, Matt Lauer's comments at the end. did not accurately summarize what Kanye was saying. Let's continue.
And during the interview, Kanye West also told me that he empathized with President Bush because he, too, talking about Kanye here, was called a racist when he interrupted Taylor Swift at the 2009 MTV Music Awards. As we often do on Today, we rolled video of that moment during his answer. We're going to show you his reaction in a moment. But after our interview, Kanye fired off several tweets, including this one. Quote, "I really wonder if Matt Lauer thought that blank was cool to play the MTV clip while I was speaking about Bush," end quote. Here's the moment Kanye's talking about. We're alluding to when you walked onto the VMAs and grabbed the mic from Taylor Swift, and some people said this wasn't a guy expressing his musical preference.
Yeah.
This was a guy who was making a statement about race, that Beyonce was better than Taylor Swift, and you got accused of racism.
Yeah, exactly. And it was so funny to me that it could be a race thing, because what I was expressing was my frustration from years and years of seeing, you know, yo, how am I supposed to talk if you're going to run this thing in the middle while I'm talking?
It's under. You won't be hearing it
But I'm hearing
much.
it while I'm trying to talk.
Okay, can you take the sound out of the overheads, please? Just pick up. You said it wasn't a race thing.
Please don't let that happen again. It's like ridiculous.
You know, it's something we do every day when a guest is talking about an incident or a location. We run video of that location or that incident. There was nothing improper about it, nothing unusual about it whatsoever. And we should mention that President Bush was here on Wednesday. He said he appreciated West's apology.
You see the last half of the interview? They got so dramatic, mentioning Kanye's tweets, the way they organized it and cut everything up to show Kanye upset, the way they ended it. Very, very weird. I think generally, Kanye had some really good points. Some of the comments in 2005 and some of the comments in this interview here in 2010. I think media can warp things and try to turn it into what product they want to produce. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. I've been considering revisiting a lot of older interviews about various topics. Please comment and let me know your thoughts on that, and I'll see you in the next one.